Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture what we will do is that we will start a brand new Android Studio project so that we could build the list view application. So in this lecture what we will do is that we'll focus on building the main activity, which is also going to be called as the top level activity, which is going to have a list view with 3 options. And we will also learn how to add listeners to this list view so that we could basically predict what happens when you click one of these items. So without wasting any time, let me just go ahead and quickly open up Android Studio. So let me just open up Android Studio over here, and we'll start a brand new project, and we will call this project with some different name probably. Okay, so once Android Studio is opened up, we will start a new Android Studio project, and let's name this application as, let's say, my food app, as this is going to be a food application. And let's say the API level is going to be 15. So select API level as 15, click next, and select the empty activity. And the name of the main activity is going to be, let's say, top level activity. And now you could name your activity as anything, but just to make you guys understand the concept, I'm going to name it as top level activity, as this is going to be our very first and top level list view activity in the entire application. So once this thing is done, we hit finish. Okay, so as you could see, the project is completely loaded up, and if you switch to the activity top underscore level.xml, actually it's still rendering, so I'll give it a while to load these things up. And what we are going to do here is that we are going to create a list view over here. Okay, so once so now everything is fine, so we'll go into the text view of this layout, and we'll basically delete the by default text view. And what we will do here is that we will add a list view over here. So I'm going to type in list view, and the layout width is going to be match parent, as it's going to be filling up the entire screen, and the layout height is going to be match parent as well. So let me just make it match parent. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. Now once we have this list view in the design view, as you could see, the list view is being loaded up over here. But now what you need to do is that you also need to add some items to this particular list view, and also you need to specify an ID for it. So what we will do is that we will type in ID equals add plus ID, and let's say this is going to be called as options. So as you could see, as soon as you assign an ID to this, there are items appearing over here. So now what happens is that these items are the by default items, and they are going to be just like that. So what you need to do is that you need to add your own items to this particular list view. So here what we are going to do is that instead of directly adding those items over here, we are going to go into the resources folder, in the values folder, and in the strings.xml file, here we are going to create a new resource, which is going to be an array. So that is going to be a string array. So we type string array, and the name of this array is going to be, let's say, options. And I guess we named the ID as options as well. So let's replace this ID with something else. So let's say we call it as let's say list underscore options, just as to avoid confusion. So this is options and this is list options. Okay, so once we have named this array, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to add items to this array. So we type item, and in the item tag we are going to add in the first item of our list, which is basically eat. So we will go right here and add that item over here which says eat. Then we are going to add the second item. So again we type in the item tag, and that is going to be drink, and the final item is going to be other. So we'll type item other, and we are good to go. Now if you move on to this list right here, as you could see, these items have not been added to the list view. And to add them up over here, what you need to do is that you need to go ahead and type in entries, which is a property of a list view, and you specify entries as @array slash options. So as soon as you do this, the new options which are basically present in the new entries which are present in the options array, which is basically present in this string, are now added to the list view. Now you can't basically see those items over here, but if you actually go ahead and run your application, you will be able to see those items over here. Now once this thing is done, what you could do is that you could save the code and run your application and see if these items are there, but I'm not going to do that because we also have to add the on-click listeners to these items right over here. So now once these items are added, the next thing which we need to do here is that we also need to add in the listeners to the list view. So what that listener is actually going to do is that it is going to basically listen for click events, so that whenever you click some item on this list, something is going to happen. So in order to do that, what we do is that we first switch to the main activity code, which is the top level activity.java, and in here the first thing which we use is that we are going to use the adapter view. So what this adapter view actually does is that it basically helps us to add an on item click listener to a list view. So the on item click listener is basically an item click listener which can be added to some items, and what the adapter view essentially does is that it basically helps us to adapt that particular on item click listener to a list view. So you directly cannot go ahead and add the click listener to the list view, so we are going to use an adapter over here. And how to do that is basically you type in adapter view, then type dot on item click listener and name this thing as item click listener itself equals new adapter view, and you need to delete the entire thing and type in dot on item click listener. And now as you could see, this thing is showing you an error, so make sure to have curly braces, and if you hover over this error, it says anonymous class derived from on item click listener must be declared abstract, or it should implement abstract methods. So what we will do is that we will hover over this thing right here, and as you could see, you are going to find a red light bulb over here. So when you click this, you get an option to basically implement methods. So if you select this option, as you could see, it basically gives you the option to implement this particular method, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. So simply hit OK, and now as you could see, a new method gets added to this click listener right here. So if you recall from the previous tutorial, we have set an on click listener to a button, and we actually did the same thing, and we basically had some other parameters over here, but the parameters for this on item click listener are a bit different. So if you could see, this is the adapter view right here, and here you need to actually pass in the list view so that we could basically go ahead and capture the clicks related to the list view. And let's say you also need to pass in a view v, and the position right over here which you can see is nothing but the position of these list view items. So the eat item is actually at position number 0, the drink item is at position number 1, and the other item is at position number 2. So this parameter basically helps us or allows you to decide which particular item is clicked. So these are the significance of these items over here, and we are having an error over here because it actually needs a semicolon over here. And now in this, what we will do is that we will decide which of the particular item is clicked. So as I earlier mentioned, this parameter, which is the position parameter, is actually used to do the same, that is to basically check which of the item is clicked. Now for the sake of this series, what we will do is that we will only handle the event associated with the first option, which is the eat option. So what we will do here is that we will type in if, and we'll type if position is equal to 0. That means we want to basically go ahead and navigate the user to this new activity, which is the food category activity. So in here, to do that, to switch from one activity to other activity, we always use intents. So we type intent equals new intent, and here you need to pass in the current activity, which is the top level activity dot this, comma, the new activity which we will be building, and that's going to be the food category activity. So we will type food category activity dot class, and once we have the intent built up, we could start the activity. So we will type in start activity intent. Okay, so what we have done here is that we have checked for the position. That means if the first position item is clicked, then we basically want to navigate through this particular activity. And as you could see right now, it's showing us an error because this activity has not been created yet. So what we need to do now is that we need to build this second activity, which is basically the food category activity. And one thing which you do need to remember here is that we are not building the activities for these two items, as that is going to be a time consuming task. So what we will do in the next lecture is that we'll start building the second activity, which is basically the food category activity. So that's it for this lecture, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.